And how long did you stay in this position, AGPR, in the San Francisco org?
For 2.5 years.
Did you have any significant media campaign that you were engaged in in this 2.5 years that we're talking about at the San Francisco org?
Objection as to the form.
Yes, several.
Okay, can you tell us the first one that comes to mind?
Well, one of our targets was the IRS. We were supposed to get press that would embarrass or criticize the IRS. And
why was that?
Because we were trying to get our tax exemption, and so the idea was to put as much pressure on the IRS as we could by making it really embarrassing for them.
And what did you do in order to accomplish that goal?
With another guy came up with a great idea. We took a live sheep, took it up to the steps of the IRS building with a portable generator. He was sheared on the steps of the IRS with all these signs that this is what the IRS does to taxpayers. And to my surprise, it got international news. It went around the world. It was one of the greatest gimmicks we ever had. Just the photograph.
Okay. What else?
I also was given a bunch of IRS documents that we published and got national press on, called the IRS Papers, which were internal IRS documents that somebody had obtained under FOI but had never been published. And that was embarrassing to the IRS because they were materials about how they conducted their operations.
Now, materials obtained under FOI, can you explain what that means?
Freedom of Information Act.
And how do you know that was obtained under FOI?
This was a couple up in Bellevue, Washington, who had been doing that for years, been filing FOI requests and getting documents.
And how did it embarrass the IRS?
Because it told about how they handled certain priority cases, treated people differently, how they had trouble, how you dealt with a troublesome case. It sort of gave you a peek inside the IRS.
Any other significant operations that you were involved with?
Objection as to the form.
Well, there was a lot of other media that I did: radio, TV, talk shows, local press, area press.
Now, when you say you did local TV, press, and things like that, is this something you did because you thought of it by yourself, or were you given orders to do it, or how does it come about that you're doing this?
Objection as to the form. About 4 questions.
Well,
here, I'll rephrase it. How is it that you were the one going out to the press and giving them information or interviewing?
Objection as to the form.
That was my job. I'm the only one that was responsible for it for Northern California.
Okay. Was this something that you did on your own initiative, or were you given orders to do this?
Both.
Okay, who would give you orders to go and meet with the press?
Well, there were programs that came down from USGO in Los Angeles.
What programs came down from the United States Guardian's office in Los Angeles?
Objection as to the form.
Programs to attack the FDA, programs to attack the IRS, and programs on religious image.
Now, have we talked about the programs to attack the IRS? Were there any more than the ones you've already talked about?
Well, it was just,
Well, what's the question?
Were there more IRS programs from the U.S. Guardian's office that you can recall at this time?
More than what?
More than the ones that he's already spoken of.
Oh, there was always something going on, but those were the major efforts that we had at the time.
Okay.
Major efforts?
Efforts.
The programs from the U.S. Guardian's office in Los Angeles to attack the IRS, do you recall what specifically you were asked to do?
Objection as to the form has been asked and answered as well.
Well, for example, we were supposed to find irate taxpayers. We were supposed to find former agents, which I did. I found a couple of former IRS agents, interview them, and then you'd write up a story for the publication Freedom, and get stories about them.
Is the publication Freedom, is that a Scientology-owned publication?
Yes.
All right, what programs did you get from the U.S. Guardian's office in Los Angeles to attack the FDA?
Objection to the form.
Same thing. We would go out and hold pickets of the FDA. We would get press on the FDA. We were sent posters that we organized a bunch of people and went out at night and pasted up, and people would show up the next morning in San Francisco and there's all these anti-FDA posters around the city. Do radio shows attacking the FDA, various ideas.
Move to strike, not responsive to the question.
What programs did you get from the Los Angeles United States Guardian's Office in reference to what you said, religious image?
Objection as to the form.
Well, this is what we needed in order to get the tax exemption, to get the IRS tax exemption, and to win the FDA cases. We had to create the image that we're a church.
Move to strike, not responsive.
What do you mean? Explain in more detail. To win the FDA case, you had to, and I don't want to, I forgot what you said. I'm sorry. To win the FDA case, you had to do something in reference to a church.
Objection as to the form is incomprehensible.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the image that the e-meter was a religious artifact. But for it to be a religious artifact, we had to be a religion. So we had to create all the trappings of religion so that this thing had a place to be as a religious artifact.
Move to strike, not responsive to the question.
Now, what do you mean you had to be a religion?
Objection as to the form.
Well, we hadn't really promoted ourselves as that, and that had been the problem that had come up for several years, and we had to simply correct it. We had to get ourselves known as a religion.
Move to strike, not responsive to your question.
Were these programs from the United States Guardian's Office in Los Angeles sent to you in a written form or orally or what?
They were sent in a mailed to us or couriered.
And can you describe the form the written document was in? Was it a letter? Was it something that was printed up in a brochure or what?
Objection asked and answered.
They were mimeographed, legal-sized pages.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Young's ex-wife, Stacy Brooks, has just entered the room. For what purpose, I'm not sure.
It's 12:25. Why don't we take a lunch break?
Okay.
We'll be back at 1:30. 12:25.
Present.
It's 1:32. This is the beginning of tape 2.
So for the record, we note that Mr. Young's ex-wife, Stacy Brooks, is now present at council table.
Mr. Young, this program that came from the U.S. Guardian's Office in Los Angeles on religious image, how many of those programs did you receive?
Objection is to the form. It's incomprehensible as well.
Was this just one writing or more than one writing?
There was more than one program that came in. There were just only 2 or 3.
And do you recall what year this was?
I took one back with me from my training when I returned to San Francisco in '71.
Okay, what did the one you took back from your training in Los Angeles back to San Francisco, what did it instruct you to do?
Objection is to the form.
There was a series of things that I was supposed to do in order to get in, what we call get in, which is establish religious image.
Okay, can you explain what that entailed?
What entailed?
This program of getting in religious image.
Objection is to the form.
Well, for example, I was to find a small spare room somewhere and create a chapel. I was to create Sunday services and get them going each Sunday. I was to get us listed in the weekly church section of the local newspaper where all the other churches listed their Sunday services and make sure Church of Scientology was listed in there. I was to put up crosses prominently in the organization. I was to see that a certain number of staff were wearing minister collars, stuff like that.